Hello everybody and welcome to Books of Blood. My name is John and today Horror Across America continues, and today I'm going to be going through two states. Both of them are quite far away from each other, and those are Georgia and Hawaii. Originally I was going to do Hawaii and Idaho, and I just kind of had a brain fart, so to speak, and instead combine Georgia and Hawaii, and I think it actually works out better that way. I'm going to do Idaho and, or actually, did I say Georgia and Idaho? I was going to do Hawaii and Idaho together and Georgia separately, but instead I'm doing Georgia and Hawaii, and then I'll do Idaho and Illinois together because I didn't find a lot for Idaho. I'm just going to tell you that right now, okay? Anyway, let's go ahead and get underway with Georgia. So the first one we've got from Georgia is The House Next Door, and this is by Ann Rivers Siddons. 30-somethings Colquitt and Walter Kennedy live in a charming, peaceful suburb of newly bustling Atlanta, Georgia. Life is made up of enjoyable work, long lazy weekends, and the company of good neighbors. Then, to their shock, construction starts on the vacant lot next door, a wooded hillside they'd believed would always remain undeveloped. Disappointed by their diminished privacy, Colquitt and Walter soon realize something more is wrong with the house next door. Surely the house can't be haunted, yet it seems to destroy the goodness of every person who comes to live in it until the entire heart of this friendly neighborhood threatens to be torn apart. And that is The House Next Door, and that is by Ann Rivers Siddons. I remember hearing about The House Next Door from Stephen King. He recommended the hell out of that book for so many years, back whenever he was first starting, and people were wanting to know, hey, what does Stephen King read? What is the master of horror? What does he read? You know, kind of thing. Alright, next we have got Those Across the River, and this is by Christopher Buehlman. Failed academic Frank Nichols and his wife Eudora have arrived in the sleepy Georgia town of Whitbro, where Frank hopes to write a history of his family's old estate, the Savoyard plantation, and the horrors that occurred there. At first, the quaint rural ways of their new neighbors seem to be everything they wanted, but there is an unspoken dread that the townsfolk have lived with for generations, a presence that demands sacrifice. It comes from the shadowy woods across the river, where the ruins of Savoyard still stand, where a long-standing debt of blood has never been forgotten. A debt that has been waiting patiently for Frank Nichols' homecoming. And that is Those Across the River, and that is by Christopher Buehlman. Okay, once again, boy, I tell you, this woman, man, this writer, she, I swear she's got a book for every state. I'm beginning to think. Oh, I know that's not true, but it just seems that way. Anyway, this is I Call Upon Thee, and this is by Anya Alborn. Maggie Olson had a pretty ordinary childhood, swimming and sleepovers, movie nights and dad jokes. And then there were the other things, the darker things, the shadow that followed her home from the cemetery and settled into the corners of her home, refusing to let her grow up in peace. Now, after 3 years away from the place she's convinced she inadvertently haunted, and after yet another family tragedy strikes, Maggie is forced to return to the sweltering heat of a Savannah summer to come to terms with her past. All along, she's been telling herself it was just in your head, and she nearly convinces herself that she'd imagined it all. But the moment Maggie steps into the foyer of her family home, she knows the darkness is still here, and it's been waiting for Maggie's return. And that is I Call Upon Thee, and that is by Anya Alborn. Okay. Alright, next we have got The Toll, and this is by Cherie Priest. Take a road trip into a Southern Gothic horror novel. Titus and Melanie Bell are on their honeymoon and have reservations in the Okefenokee swamp cabins for a canoeing trip. But shortly before they reach their destination, the road narrows into a rickety bridge with old stone pilings with room for only one car. Much later, Titus wakes up lying in the middle of the road, no bridge in sight. Melanie is missing. When he calls the police, they tell him there is no such bridge on Route 177. And that is The Toll, and that is by Cherie Priest. Okay, next we've got The Haunting Season, and this is by Michelle Muto. Siler House has stood silent beneath Savannah's moss-draped oaks for decades. Notoriously haunted, it has remained empty until college-bound Jess Perry and 3 of her peers gathered to take part in a month-long study on the paranormal. Able to talk to ghosts, Jess quickly bonds with her fellow test subjects who have their own gifts. One is possessed, another just wants to forget. The third is a guy who knows how to turn up the August heat, not to mention Jess's heart rate when he's not resurrecting the dead. The study soon turns into something far more sinister when they discover that Siler House and the dark forces within are determined to keep them forever. To escape, Jess and the others must open themselves up to the true horror of Siler House and channel the very evil that seeks to hold them in. And that is, what was the name of it? The Haunting Season by Michelle Muto. Okay, and I think this is the last of the Georgia books, and this is Wormwood, and this is by Chad Lutsky and Tim Meyer. For some kids, Long Lake, Georgia is home, but for 14-year-old Baker Gray, it's just another stop, another town, and another state. Because of his mother's nomadic lifestyle, he's never had a best friend, never kissed a girl, and he certainly never met anyone like Cassandra Larson, the enigmatic older girl whose idea of fun blurs the line between right and wrong. Being hopelessly led by emotions he's never felt, Baker finds himself plodding along dark paths paved by the girl he thinks he may love, a road to self-destruction where vigilante justice is encouraged and bloodshed is an art form. And that is Wormwood by Chad Lutsky and Tim Meyer. And I have read Wormwood, and it's actually quite good, so I can easily recommend it for sure. All right, now we are moving into Hawaii. I was talking to somebody the other day about this series, and I said my next one was going to be for Georgia and Hawaii. I was actually talking to them today as my sister-in-law, and she said, I wouldn't think there would be any horror to come out of Hawaii. And I'm like, wow, I mean, yeah, I'm sure Hawaii's got quite a haunted history in the first place, but anyway, I mean, that's, I guess I could see why you wouldn't know. Anyway, the first book we're going to talk about is Demon Fire, and this is by Gary Holloman. The tropical Hawaiian Islands become the site of unspeakable terror for a group of vacationers who seek the sun, sand, and surf, but instead encounter ancient gods, witches, and the demon forces of hell. Original. That is what it says in the synopsis. Original. Alright? And that is for Demon Fire, and that is by Gary Holloman. Okay, next up we've got The Presence, and this is by John Saul. Beyond the sparkling Hawaiian beaches, masked by the deceptive beauty of the rainforest, evil awaits 16-year-old Michael Sundquist and his mother, Catherine, an anthropologist who has come to the islands to study the unusual skeletal remains unearthed on the volcanic flanks of Halakala, Maui. And if I'm butchering that, I apologize. Anybody's out there that's Hawaiian, if I butchered it, I apologize for that. Yet far below the black depths of the Pacific, a mysterious substance snakes through undiscovered fissures in the ocean floor, as nature itself seems to pretend the terror to come. Then, with the sudden, unexpected death of Michael's friend, a disturbing truth dawns. The corporation that is funding Catherine's dig has a far greater investment than she ever imagined, an investment in medical terror, and her son may be part of their hideous grand plan. And that is The Presence, and that is by John Saul. And last but not least, we have got a really quick synopsis for Fires of Eden, and this is by Dan Simmons. When a billionaire developer builds a luxurious resort on the Kona coast of Hawaii, he reopens a centuries-old battle between the volcano goddess and her immortal enemies, and the ensuing chaos brings about the death of many patrons. And that is Fires of Eden, and that is by Dan Simmons. So that is going to do it for Georgia and Hawaii. I hope you guys once again have joined this trip, this horror across America, as I've been calling it. And when I return, it's going to be with Idaho and Illinois. All right. Thank you. Take care and stay scared. Bye-bye.